I've always wanted one. This is the 8BitDo Ultimate. Probably one of the best bang for your buck controllers for PC or Nintendo Switch that you can get. The main advantage to this is the joysticks use Hall effects sensors instead of the regular sensors that you get drift in, which would be plain old potentiometer sensors. So that's what the Switch comes with. This is going to be better. You should never, in a reasonable amount of time, get drift on these controllers. So this is what we have. This is the model 80NA. Comes with a USB cable to charge it and to connect it to a PC. It also has a Nintendo Switch compatible Bluetooth, 2.4 gigahertz wireless, a wired USB, and you can connect it to Windows. This is primarily what it's going to be for, my games on the PC. So let's open this guy up and see what we get. And before we get to that, let's get to this one. So this is like a $30 Xbox knockoff controller that I've been using for my PC. It takes some AA batteries in here, and you've got to plug in this guy here, and it's okay. I find that the batteries run out pretty quickly, and it's not always very responsive. So, but for the amount I paid for it, $30, it's actually not too shabby. But we are going to upgrade that to this, and I'll be probably giving it to my son to play computer games with that on his PC. So let's open this guy up and see what we get. Fancy. So the packaging is quite nice. It's held in there pretty nicely. The box is pretty decent quality. And yeah, this feels really nice compared to the one that I have. Let's see. This one's still solid. It just doesn't feel as nice. Okay, so we've got our controller, shoulders, analog Z buttons, or L2 and R2, and we even have underside buttons here for extras. We'll peel this off, that aside. And these buttons feel really nice, and these thumbsticks feel beautiful. Okay, what else do we get in the box? We get the dock for it. Okay. And that sits on there just like that. And we should get a Bluetooth. So there's your Bluetooth switch. So Bluetooth and 2.4 gigahertz to switch between the two. Your laptop or your PC, you should have a Bluetooth dongle or Bluetooth built into the machine. You can use it connected that way. It should come with a 2.4 gigahertz dongle somewhere, maybe in the box, that we can connect to the 2.4 gigahertz, which is a little bit faster than Bluetooth. Depending on the game, if it's a high-speed game that you're doing speed runs on or something, you might want to use the 2.4 gigahertz dongle. If not, you might get away with just using Bluetooth. So let's take a look at what else we got here. So we have our instruction manual with a bunch of different languages in it, and a USB cable to plug in the dock or the controller. Does the controller? Yeah, so the control, and it's USB-C. Awesome. So you can see here it is not USB micro, which is amazing. And I don't think this, yeah, that's kind of taped in there. So there's nothing else. Let's find our dongle. It's not on there. Okay, so we can plug in our USB-C here to power the stand, and that would charge the controller. And probably in here is where our, very nice. Let's get that out of there. It looks cool. It's not like a regular little tiny adapter. It's got a nice cool little pattern on it. Looks nice. So this will plug into your PC and you'll get better reception out of that. On a side note, you can leave the USB adapter plugged into the docking station, and if you have your USB-C cable connected, it is quite a firm cable, so make sure it is connected all the way. This is not enough, so that's not enough. You do have to plug it in quite firmly so that it does click all the way into the slot. But having it plugged into back here will also plug this in. You can see the blue light blinking here, that it is now powered on and receiving. So the dock, you can leave that plugged in, cover this back up, and not lose your 2.4 gigahertz adapter. If you want to charge your dock plugged in somewhere else and have your stand somewhere else on a shelf or something, and you don't want it plugged into your computer, then you can obviously take this out and plug this directly into your PC. So the pin contacts on here, they are springy, so we can show you that. So they go up and down here. Hard to see on camera, but they do spring up and down, so they make good contact. They're not stiff, and you're not going to break them if you touch them. And they're going to make contact just inside here with these three. Sits on there nicely. Okay, let me put this cover on. Okay, so I'm going to play a few games, test it out, and see how well it does on the PC. I've got a couple of games. Mostly going to be playing Hades and Hades 2 when that comes out, using this controller, because the other one that I got, sometimes it loses connectivity and you kind of just left standing there, and you don't want to do that in a game like Hades. So there is also software for this controller that you can use to configure it. You can set up macros, you can set up rapid fire, and you can control things like how much rumble your rumble sticks have. So let's connect. Okay, so we just powered on the remote and connected it over the 2.4 gigahertz USB, and we'll select Windows. Okay, so this is the software. These are all the buttons that you have. I haven't quite used it yet, but you can control up to 3 profiles. There are 3 lights on your controller, which will, if you push this center button here, will control which profile you're on. So for instance, we can go to vibration and we can set the vibration for each side, strong or not so strong, depending on how much battery you want to save or battery you want to use, or how aggressive the vibration is on each side. And then you select sync to device, and now on profile 1 this will be lit up, and you'll have that. We can also set macros. You can create a macro here, and you'll be able to use that macro in game. If you have something that's highly repeatable, you can use that to control that action very quickly. You can change your button mappings and what they do. So you can have L2 button port over to LT, or left trigger, or left button, or L. So the buttons up on top, they're labeled, and you can make them do what you want. You can go as far as even selecting your X and Y or A and B button to map to different buttons. For here, you can select so we can see here the movement of the Joy-Cons and where they release to. So this one, it looks like it's releasing at 2% over. And we can change how your sensitivity is and all that kind of stuff. We can disable dead zones. And we'll sync it to device. So now there is no dead zone. These are going to be permanently affixed. So this one is slightly 1%, 2% off. So we don't really want that. So we do want a small dead zone. So you can make your adjustments here. And you can see the analog sensitivity for each analog trigger. We can swap the triggers and we can set how active they are. So if you want them to be really active, how much response there is, you can do that here. And then we can do a device test and we can calibrate it, or we can update it if there's firmware. So in order to calibrate, we have to connect it via USB. So let's connect it with the USB cable and see what it says about calibration. Okay, so now we've connected it with USB. And for some reason, calibration has disappeared. So let's reload this and see what happens. So you'll need to go to the 8BitDo website, which is app.8bitdo.com. Hit the button up at the top to Ultimate Software. Select your controller. I've got the Ultimate, and then click on your operating system. We're going to go with Windows right now. That's what we have. Let that download. We'll go back up to the top. We'll select Upgrade Tool, and we'll select Download for Windows. This is the software for the firmware. You'll need to have the latest firmware on your controller and USB stick in order for you to do the calibration. So I've downloaded it, and you can run the firmware upgrader here, and it will detect your controller when you've plugged it in or connected it, get the latest firmware, and then you should be able to do the calibration for your controller once you've plugged in the controller with the USB cable. So go ahead and run the 8BitDo firmware updater. And it looks like there is an update, but nothing too serious. So we can go ahead and select update, and then we'll plug it in with the USB cable. And it looks like this firmware update was for the USB dongle. Then when we run the firmware update again, it's going to get the controller since we've plugged it in. So after the first firmware update, we'll run it again and we'll see if there's an extra one. And it looks like there is, to version 1.05. Update complete, perfect. So we'll wait for Windows to connect it, and then we'll run it again. Okay, and it looks like it's on the latest firmware. So we can see here, these are the firmware versions, and we are on 1.05, and we can update to 1.05 if we want to reset it. So let's see if there's any difference in the software here. And now we're able to calibrate the device with the USB cable plugged in. So go ahead and calibrate the device. So just follow the instructions here and get it calibrated. So basically that just calibrates your analog items on the controller, which is your triggers and your analog sticks. And that's it. It's complete. So now when we go to device test, we can see even how much these light up. So if I'm fully depressing the trigger, it is fully bright. And if I slowly let it down, you can see that it is not as bright until it is off. So right here is right where it's detecting. And if I hold it there, it doesn't get any brighter until I push it all the way down. Same with this side. So there's lots of things to do within the software to get the controller the way you want it, including your macro buttons, rapid fire, and your your Z finger buttons, ZL and ZR. I'm gonna go and test this controller out in a couple games. Maybe I'll connect it to my Switch later on, but for now I'm gonna play some Hades. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!